Have you ever stopped to think about how our priorities shift as we get older? How things that once felt so important, absolutely critical, begin to fade in significance? Today, I want to talk about a topic that's close to my heart: 9 things that lose their meaning after the ages of 69, 80, or 90. These are things that we spend so much of our lives worrying about, only to realize later that they don't hold the weight we thought they did. Stick around until the end, because this isn't just about letting go of what doesn't matter, it's about embracing what truly does. Understanding these truths can help you live more freely and fully in the time we have. Before we begin, if this sounds like the kind of content you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button for golden aging and turn on notifications so you never miss our tips on living fully at every age. Your support truly helps us reach more people looking to make their golden years healthier and happier. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Let's dive into it. The first thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is trying to keep up with appearances. In our younger years, so much of our time and energy is spent worrying about how we look, what clothes we wear, how our hair is styled, whether we look successful or attractive to others. It's as if there's an invisible scoreboard, and we're constantly trying to win points. But as we age, we start to see that this kind of pressure is not only exhausting but also, ultimately, unimportant. The need to present a polished image to the world begins to fade, and with it comes a newfound freedom to simply be ourselves. I'll admit there was a time when I cared deeply about appearances. I remember in my working years, making sure my suits were perfectly pressed, my tie knotted just so. Even casual outings felt like a performance, dressing up for the neighborhood barbecue or worrying about how my lawn looked compared to the neighbors. It's not that these things are inherently bad, but the energy spent on them often came at the expense of truly enjoying the moment, or focusing on what mattered most. Now, as the years have gone by, I've come to realize that the people who love me don't care if I'm wearing mismatched socks or if my hair is thinning. They care about how I make them feel, how I show up for them, and the memories we create together. Letting go of the pressure to maintain a certain image has been one of the most liberating shifts in my life. I remember a particular moment when this really hit home. My grandson pointed out that I was wearing 2 different socks during a family gathering. He laughed, and at first, I felt a little embarrassed. But then I joined in the laughter. That small moment reminded me that it's not about looking perfect, it's about being present, sharing joy, and not taking yourself too seriously. These days, mismatched socks are practically a trademark of mine, and I love the conversations they spark. The beauty of letting go of appearances is that it allows you to focus on what truly matters: comfort, connection, and authenticity. I've traded tailored suits for well-worn sweaters, and I couldn't be happier. Instead of worrying about impressing others, I focus on how I feel and how I can make those around me feel valued and loved. This shift doesn't mean I've stopped caring about myself. It means I've stopped chasing an ideal that doesn't truly matter. There's also something deeply authentic about showing up as you are, without pretense or performance. The people who care about appearances are often caught up in their own insecurities, and when you let go of that concern, you set an example for others to do the same. You show that it's okay to age, to be imperfect, and to embrace life in all its messy, beautiful reality. As we grow older, we realize that appearances are fleeting. What stays with people isn't how polished we looked but how we made them feel. Were we kind? Did we laugh together? Did we make them feel seen and valued? These are the things that truly matter, and letting go of the need to keep up with appearances gives us more space to focus on them. Letting go of appearances doesn't mean giving up on self-care or self-respect. It means shifting the focus from what others see to how you feel inside. It's about dressing for comfort and joy, smiling because you feel like it, and valuing substance over style. And in doing so, you find a new kind of beauty, the kind that comes from being unapologetically yourself. The second thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is the need to impress others. When we're younger, so much of what we do is driven by a desire to be admired, acknowledged, or validated. Whether it's in our careers, relationships, or even our social circles, there's often an underlying pressure to prove ourselves, to show that we're successful, capable, or worthy of attention. But as we age, we start to see the futility of constantly seeking approval from others. It becomes clear that the people who truly matter don't need to be impressed. They just need to be loved and cared for. I can vividly recall the years I spent trying to climb the career ladder, putting in long hours and making sacrifices to earn the respect of colleagues and bosses. I wanted to be seen as someone who had it all together, who was ambitious and reliable. While some of that effort was necessary, looking back, I realize how much energy I wasted worrying about how others perceived me. Did they think I was good enough? Did I seem successful? In truth, those moments of validation were fleeting, and they often came at the cost of spending less time with my family or neglecting my own needs. As the years have passed, I've come to understand that the need to impress others is like chasing a mirage. It's never fully satisfying. You achieve one milestone, and there's always another one to chase. The approval of others can be shallow and temporary, and relying on it can leave you feeling empty. But when you shift your focus inward, you start to realize that the only approval you truly need is your own. I remember a moment when this hit me square in the face. I had just retired, and for the first time in decades, I wasn't defined by my job title or achievements. At first, it was unsettling. I wondered, who am I now? But then I realized that I didn't need anyone else's validation to feel good about myself. My worth wasn't tied to accolades or recognition. It was tied to how I treated others, the memories I created, and the way I chose to live each day. These days, I focus on impressing myself instead of others. I ask myself, am I living in a way that feels true to me? Am I showing kindness and generosity to the people I care about? Those questions are far more fulfilling than worrying about whether someone else thinks I'm good enough. I no longer feel the need to prove myself. I just focus on being the best version of me, for myself and for the people I love. One of the most liberating realizations is that the people who truly matter in your life don't need to be impressed. They already accept you for who you are. Your family, your closest friends, and even your pets, they don't care about your status, your bank account, or your accomplishments. They care about how you make them feel, the time you spend with them, and the love you share. That's what lasts, long after the superficial trappings of success have faded. Letting go of the need to impress others also opens the door to living more authentically. When you're not constantly trying to meet someone else's expectations, you have the freedom to be yourself, flaws and all. You start to realize that the best relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, not on one person trying to outshine the other. And in those genuine connections, you find true fulfillment. As we grow older, the desire to impress others naturally loses its grip on us. We see life for what it is, not a competition, but a journey. And the most meaningful part of that journey isn't the accolades we earn but the love, joy, and peace we cultivate along the way. The third thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is holding on to grudges. In our younger years, it's easy to let pride or hurt feelings take over when someone wrongs us. We cling to anger, replaying the incident in our minds and convincing ourselves that the other person doesn't deserve forgiveness. But as the years go by, we start to realize how heavy that burden of resentment truly is. Holding on to grudges takes up valuable mental and emotional energy that could be spent on things that bring us joy and peace. I'll admit in my younger years, I could be stubborn. If someone hurt me, I felt justified in my anger. I'd tell myself that forgiving them would make me look weak, or that they didn't deserve to be let off the hook. But what I didn't realize at the time was that holding on to those grudges was only hurting me. The person who wronged me had moved on, yet I was still carrying that anger, letting it fester and affect my happiness. There was a time when I had a falling out with an old friend over a misunderstanding. Neither of us reached out to resolve it, and the years just slipped by. Decades later, when I heard that this friend wasn't doing well, something inside me shifted. I picked up the phone, nervous but determined, and called them. What surprised me was how quickly the tension melted away. We both admitted we couldn't even remember what the fight was about, and we laughed about how silly it all seemed now. That conversation brought me so much peace and reminded me that life is too short to waste on resentment. As we grow older, we start to see the bigger picture. The minor slights and disagreements that once seemed so monumental now feel insignificant compared to the value of love and connection. Time becomes more precious, and you realize that every moment spent dwelling on a grudge is a moment stolen from your happiness. Letting go of grudges doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It means choosing to release the anger and resentment for your own well-being. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of the past so you can move forward with a lighter heart. Forgiveness, I've learned, is more for the forgiver than the forgiven. It's not about excusing bad behavior. It's about giving yourself permission to let go of the pain and make space for peace. I've also come to understand that holding grudges often comes from a place of pride. We don't want to be the first to reach out or appear vulnerable. But vulnerability is where true strength lies. When you let go of a grudge, you're showing yourself and others that you value peace and connection more than being right. These days, I approach life with a different perspective. If someone wrongs me, I ask myself, will this matter a year from now? 5 years? When I look back on my life, will I wish I'd spent less time holding on to this? More often than not, the answer is no. And that makes it much easier to let go and move on. As we age, we come to understand that forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts we can give, not just to others, but to ourselves. It clears the path for love, understanding, and happiness. Holding on to grudges keeps us stuck in the past, while forgiveness allows us to fully embrace the present. And at this stage of life, the present is where we find the most joy and meaning. If you're still watching and enjoying this, comment 2 below. I'd love to know if this is resonating with you. The fourth thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is the need to compete with others. When we're younger, life can sometimes feel like a constant race. Who has the better job, the bigger house, the newest car, or the most impressive accomplishments? There's this unspoken pressure to measure our worth against others, as if our value is tied to being better in some way. But as the years go by, we start to see how hollow and unnecessary this competition truly is. Life isn't about keeping score, it's about enjoying the journey. I can remember a time when I felt like I was constantly in competition with others, even if I didn't admit it to myself. Whether it was at work or among friends, there was always a sense of comparison. If a neighbor got a new car, I'd think, should I upgrade mine too? If a colleague got a promotion, I'd wonder if I was falling behind. It wasn't malicious. It's just a mindset society conditions us to adopt. But looking back, I realize how exhausting it was to chase an invisible goal, always trying to win, without knowing what the prize even was. As I've aged, I've come to understand that this need to compete is not only unnecessary but also counterproductive. Instead of focusing on what truly matters, your own happiness, your relationships, your health, you end up chasing external validation. And no matter how much you achieve or acquire, it's never enough because there will always be someone who seems to have more. The cycle is endless, and it's not a game worth playing. I had a moment of clarity about this years ago when a good friend retired. Instead of throwing himself into a new project or hobby, he simply spent his time enjoying his garden, reading books, and cherishing moments with his family. When I asked him how he felt about stepping away from the competition of the working world, he laughed and said, "You know, I've realized the only person I need to impress is myself." That statement stuck with me. He was right. True contentment comes from within, not from how you stack up against others. These days, I've stopped comparing myself to others, and it's incredibly freeing. Instead of feeling envy when someone achieves something, I feel genuine happiness for them. And instead of trying to one-up someone else's success, I focus on what brings me joy. Whether it's a walk in nature, a quiet moment with a loved one, or finishing a project that excites me, those are the things that matter, not how they compare to what someone else is doing. Letting go of the need to compete also opens the door to deeper connections with others. When you're not worried about outshining someone, you can genuinely celebrate their victories and share in their joy. You can also be more open about your own struggles and challenges, knowing that you don't have to present a perfect image to the world. As we grow older, we realize that life isn't a competition, it's a personal journey. Each of us has our own path, our own joys, and our own challenges. There's no scoreboard, no finish line where someone declares a winner. What matters is how we spend our time, the relationships we nurture, and the peace we find within ourselves. Letting go of the need to compete allows you to focus on what truly matters, living a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful to you. And when you shift your attention from comparison to gratitude, you'll find that life is much more enjoyable, not because you've won, but because you're no longer playing the game. The fifth thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is worrying about material possessions. In our younger years, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of things. We work hard to afford the bigger house, the fancier car, the latest gadgets, and the best clothes, thinking these items will bring us happiness or validate our success. But as the years go by, we come to realize that material possessions are fleeting. They don't hold the meaning or value we once assigned to them, especially when compared to the things that truly matter: our health, relationships, and memories. I remember a time when I was fixated on having the perfect home. I wanted everything just so: the newest appliances, the nicest furniture, and a yard that could rival a postcard. I thought these things would make me happy or impress others. But looking back, I can't recall a single dinner party where anyone cared what brand of stove I had or how pristine the lawn looked. What I do remember are the moments of laughter, the connections made, and the love shared. Those were the things that mattered, not the decor. As we age, we start to see that material things come and go, and their importance fades. That shiny new car loses its sparkle after a few years, the designer clothes go out of style, and the gadgets become outdated. What lasts are the relationships we nurture, the experiences we have, and the memories we create. I've come to value a quiet afternoon with family or a walk in the park far more than any object I could buy. I had a conversation recently with a friend who was downsizing his home. He told me how freeing it felt to let go of so much stuff he had accumulated over the years. When I started sorting through it all, he said, I realized I didn't even remember why I'd kept most of it. The things I truly cherish, the photos, the letters, the little keepsakes from loved ones, take up very little space. His words resonated deeply with me. The older we get, the more we realize that the best things in life aren't things at all. Worrying about material possessions can also create unnecessary stress. Keeping up with the latest trends, maintaining a certain lifestyle, or even just holding on to things we don't need can weigh us down. As we grow older, we learn to prioritize simplicity and focus on what brings us real joy. A clutter-free space often leads to a clearer mind, and letting go of material attachments opens up room for experiences and relationships that truly enrich our lives. This shift in perspective doesn't mean we stop appreciating the things we have. It simply means we no longer measure our worth by them. I still enjoy my comfortable chair, the mug I use for my morning coffee, and the old bookshelf filled with stories I've loved. But I don't feel the need to constantly acquire more or compare what I have to what others own. The pressure to keep up fades, and with it comes a sense of peace. Letting go of material worries also helps us connect more deeply with others. When we're not focused on possessions, we can focus on people. Instead of fretting over hosting the perfect dinner party with fancy table settings, we can enjoy the company of our guests and the conversations we share. Instead of striving to have the best of everything, we can focus on giving our best to the people we care about. As we grow older, we begin to understand that the things we own are far less important than the moments we share and the love we give. Material possessions may bring temporary satisfaction, but they can't replace the lasting joy of connection and meaning. Letting go of this worry allows us to live more freely and fully, cherishing what truly matters in life. The sixth thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is the need to please everyone. In our earlier years, many of us spend an extraordinary amount of time and energy trying to make others happy. We say yes when we want to say no, we put our own needs aside to accommodate others, and we bend over backward to avoid disappointing people. While some of this is rooted in kindness and generosity, much of it stems from a fear of rejection or a desire to be liked. But as we age, we begin to see that constantly trying to please everyone is not only impossible, it's also unnecessary. I've spent more than my fair share of time worrying about what others thought of me. I'd agree to commitments that left me stretched too thin, apologize for things that weren't my fault, or go out of my way to avoid conflict, even if it meant compromising my own happiness. At the time, I thought I was being considerate, but in hindsight, I see that I was often neglecting myself. It's taken years of reflection to realize that you can't please everyone, and more importantly, you don't have to. A defining moment for me came when a close friend gave me advice I'll never forget. I had been venting about how someone seemed upset with me, even though I'd done everything I could to accommodate them. My friend looked at me and said, "You're not a magician. You can't make everyone happy. Stop trying to do the impossible." At first, those words stung because they challenged a part of me that was deeply ingrained. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized she was right. You can't pour from an empty cup, and if you spend your life pleasing others at the expense of your own well-being, you'll end up feeling drained and resentful. As I've grown older, I've found it much easier to set boundaries and prioritize my own needs. This isn't about being selfish. It's about recognizing that your happiness and peace of mind are just as important as anyone else's. Instead of trying to meet everyone's expectations, I've learned to focus on the people and activities that truly matter. Saying no when you need to is a form of self-care, and it allows you to say yes to the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. What's interesting is that when you stop trying to please everyone, your relationships often improve. The people who genuinely care about you respect your boundaries and appreciate your honesty. The ones who don't? Well, you realize that their approval isn't worth sacrificing your happiness. It's a liberating realization that comes with age and experience. I've also noticed that letting go of the need to please everyone makes room for more authentic connections. When you're not constantly worrying about how others perceive you, you can show up as your true self. This allows for deeper, more meaningful relationships based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than on trying to meet someone else's expectations. As we age, time becomes more precious, and we start to see how important it is to spend that time wisely. The energy we once used to chase after everyone's approval is better spent on nurturing our well-being and enjoying life. It's not about shutting people out, it's about focusing on the people and moments that truly bring you joy. And letting go of the need to please everyone, you reclaim your power and your peace. You realize that you are enough just as you are, and you don't need to shape yourself to fit someone else's mold. Life becomes less about pleasing others and more about finding happiness within yourself. And that's one of the greatest gifts aging can bring. If you're still here and this is hitting home, comment 3 below. I'd love to know if this resonates. The 7th thing that loses its meaning as we grow older is chasing perfection. For much of our lives, many of us are taught to strive for perfection in everything we do. Whether it's in our work, our appearance, our homes, or even how we interact with others, there's often this unspoken pressure to make everything just right. But as the years pass, we begin to realize that perfection is not only unattainable but also unnecessary. Life isn't about flawless execution, it's about embracing the imperfections and finding beauty in them. I can vividly recall the years when I would agonize over every little detail. If I was hosting a dinner, I wanted the table settings to be perfect, the food to be restaurant quality, and the house spotless. If I made a mistake at work, I'd replay it in my mind endlessly, wondering how I could have done better. And if something didn't go exactly as planned, I'd feel like I'd failed. Looking back, I see how much stress I put on myself for things that didn't really matter in the grand scheme of life. As I've grown older, I've come to embrace the imperfections that make life real and memorable. I think of family gatherings where the pie crust came out a little too dark, or where the kids accidentally spilled juice on the carpet. Those moments, though far from perfect, are the ones that brought laughter and connection. The slightly burned pie. We ate it anyway, and it was delicious. The juice spill? It became a story we still laugh about. Chasing perfection would have robbed me of those moments of joy. One of the greatest lessons aging has taught me is that imperfections are what make us human. They're what make life interesting and relatable. Imagine if everything in your life went perfectly, every event flawless, every interaction smooth, every outcome ideal. It might seem appealing at first, but it would soon feel dull and lifeless. It's the quirks, the surprises, and even the mistakes that give life its color and meaning. I also think about how perfectionism can hold us back from trying new things or taking risks. When we're so focused on doing something perfectly, we often hesitate to even begin. But as we age, we start to see that it's better to try and stumble than to never try at all. Whether it's picking up a new hobby, learning a new skill, or simply stepping out of your comfort zone, embracing imperfection allows you to experience life more fully. Another liberating realization is that most people don't notice or care about the things we obsess over. If your house isn't spotless, your outfit isn't perfectly coordinated, or your plan doesn't go off without a hitch, the people who truly care about you won't mind. They're there for you, not for perfection. This perspective has helped me let go of the need to please and focus instead on enjoying the moment. Letting go of the chase for perfection also allows for more self-compassion. As we age, our bodies change, our memories might not be as sharp, and our abilities can shift. Instead of critiquing ourselves for not being who we once were, we can learn to appreciate who we are now. Aging gracefully is about accepting these changes and finding beauty in every stage of life. In the end, life is not a perfect picture, it's a mosaic made up of all the moments, both perfect and imperfect, that create a meaningful whole. When we stop chasing perfection, we can focus on what truly matters: connection, laughter, growth, and the simple joys of everyday life. And that, to me, is far more rewarding than anything perfect could ever be. As we journey through life and reach milestones like 69, 80, or even 90, it's remarkable how our perspectives shift. The things we once stressed over, appearances, competition, grudges, material possessions, and the pursuit of perfection, begin to lose their meaning. In their place, we find a deeper appreciation for what truly matters: love, connection, and the simple joys of each day. Letting go of these unnecessary burdens frees us to live more authentically, with greater peace and gratitude for the life we've built. Aging teaches us that our worth isn't measured by the approval of others, the things we own, or the image we project. It's found in the relationships we cherish, the laughter we share, and the moments of quiet contentment. By embracing these truths, we can focus on what truly enriches our lives and spend our time on what matters most. If this conversation resonated with you, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.